Asad Hashmili here with another lesson of economics, and we were on a bit of a break. Yes, I eat my words up. We were on a bit of a break, and before that break, we spoke about the theory of demand, and also that how the theory of demand and the theory of supply contribute in something called the price mechanism. Now, the theory of demand suggested that the consumers must have a willingness and ability to buy a product. So anything demand related means that it's about the consumer. And similarly, the converse of that, or the flip side to that, is the producer's side for whatever goes on in the market. So the producer must have the willingness and ability to produce goods and services. Just like how the definition for demand was willingness and ability of a consumer to buy a product, this over here is willingness and ability of firms to produce a product or produce goods and services. If I'm giving tuitions, I'm the supplier of the tuitions, yeah? I must have the willingness and the ability to actually give these lessons in the first place for me to be able to make these lessons in the first place, yeah? And you also must have that willingness and ability to buy or come to my class to basically consume this, regardless of the fact that this is on YouTube or whatever, or IGTV. But that's the point. Anyone making anything must have the means to make that, right? Of course, without hardware, without capital, without anything, you're not going to be able to make much or have a service in the first place. Now, the demand curve was downward sloping. That meant that if the price went up, the quantity demanded went down, or if the price went down, the quantity demanded went up, right? And the same is the opposite actually holds for supply. If price goes up, quantity supplied is going to go up as well. If I'm making, say, PS4s, right, and if the price of PS4s goes from, say, $3,000 to $5,000, I'm going to be like, yeah, man, let's make some more PS4s. So, of course, there's going to be a direct relationship in the two. I've written it over here as well. So when you screenshot this, all right, make sure that you pay attention to all the notes that are here as well. Now, if I'm moving up the supply curve, remember that price is what's going to move what's going to move us above and below the supply curve. Right now, we're not talking about shifts. Movement along the supply curve is by price, is by virtue of price. So if I'm moving up the supply curve, which means that my quantity supply is increasing, I'm expanding my supply curve. There's an expansion in my supply curve. And similarly, if my price is going down and by virtue my quantity supplied is going down, there's going to be a contraction along the supply curve. Always remember to label your diagrams. Remember, always remember, because if you don't label your diagram, if you label this as D, that means demand, you're basically going to be marked incorrect, and that also means that you don't understand the concept at all right now. So be very, very careful of this. Now, how do you determine this? How do you find this in the first place? Honestly speaking, you go into the market and you see what people are willing to pay for something, and that's how you determine what the producer might be able to make in the first place. Now, to find the market supply, I'm going to take the horizontal summation, or what one consumer and another consumer, what one producer and another producer are willing to make at a certain price. So I fixed the price at 10. And I need to know what is the market supply of, let's say, Kokomo right now. Let's say Kokomo is not made by one company, it's made by multiple companies. So I'm going to fix a price at 10, and I'm going to see which producers are willing, how much are they willing to produce at the price of 10. One company is willing to make 50 at the price of 10, and another company is willing to make 40 at a price of 10. So the market supply is going to be the sum of these two companies at that price, which means that the market supply at a price of 10 is going to be 90 units of Kokomo, or 90 bags of Kokomo. Quickly take a screenshot. We're going to move to the next concept. Yeah, now we're going to talk about the shifts in the supply curve, how the shift happens in the first place. Now, the shift can happen because of the determinants of supply. Some might cause the shift to be outwards, some might cause the shift to be inwards. Always remember that in both the demand and in the supply, an inward shift meaning towards the origin, is a decrease in either demand or supply. And an outward shift, all right, that means away from the origin, means that it's an increase in demand or supply. Now, from S to S1, there's a decrease in supply, and from S to S2, there's an increase in supply at each and every price. All right, so that means that at the price of P, if I'm initially making Q, remember we're talking about supply, so if I'm making Q, that means that if there's a decrease in supply because of any factor, let's say that factor is tax. The tax on my product is going up, so now it's becoming more expensive for me to make it, which means that at each and every price, I'll be selling less of it, right? So that means that my supply will my supply will decrease from Q to Q1. All right, but let's say that that the tax has actually decreased now, so I can make more of something at that price. So I'm going to take my price axis further out to the new supply curve and see how much more I can make, and I'm making Q2 more, right? So remember, an increase in supply means that it's going to shift outward, and a decrease in supply because of some non-price factor will mean that the supply is shifting inwards, so it's going to move to the left. All right, now what are the determinants of supply? The determinants of supply firstly start off as cost of production. Cost of production might mean that the cost of the raw materials required to make that product, might be the machinery that comes into that product, or might be the labor cost of making that product in the first place. So if my cost of production is going down by, let's say that the labor is costing me less, I require less labor, but I have the same amount of machines, but I just need less labor now to make something. So that means that my cost of production is going down and my supply will shift out. My supply will shift from S to S2 in that scenario because of taxes. Now taxes are going to be levied by the government. Now let's say that I'm making cigarettes and automatically the government is going to charge me with a sales tax. So that means that my supply is going to go down because it's more expensive for me to make cigarettes in the first place. So my supply is going to shift inwards in that case from S to S1. Subsidies. Now subsidies are basically a financial grant that's given to a firm or a producer of something. Now let's talk about agriculture. Let's say that the government, I'm a farmer, the government gives me a subsidy, they give me a grant, which means that now it's cheaper for me to make rice or cotton or anything. I can actually produce more at a lower price because the government is also giving me some money. I don't have to charge people such a high price. So my supply is going to shift out. At each and every price, I can now make more, basically. All right? Technology. Because of a rise in technology, I become more efficient, I become more productive. I might start being able to make more or produce more. And again, at each and every price, I can now make more. So supply will shift out in that case. Now remember, these also have a counter argument as well, which I'm not going to get into. Use your little noggins over there. All right, now price of other products. Some products might actually be more profitable to make. If I'm making rice, but I see that the price of corn has gone up, and it's more profitable for me to make corn, I might just switch over there. And if there's other people making corn as well, automatically I'm also being a supplier of corn, I'm a producer of corn, so automatically more suppliers in a market means that there's more of that item, more corn at the end of the day. And again, supply shifts out. Time. Now time and weather go hand in hand. If I want to make more corn, I can't make more corn overnight, right? Because it's a crop, it needs to grow. And the same applies to weather. Because of weather conditions, my corn might not grow or my rice might not grow. And that means that in the next season, there might actually be less of something. Because of some bad weather conditions, I might just have to, I can't make it. So my supply is going to decrease at that price, right? It's as simple as that. Now, take a screenshot again and we're going to quickly do market equilibrium again as well. Alright, so how do the two come together again? Now, once the demand and the supply curve intersect at a certain point, that point is called equilibrium. Notice how when I'm making my diagram, once the price and the quantity intersect, that means that the supply and the demand are intersecting, I'm labeling that as E for equilibrium. Alright? My equilibrium price will be marked as PE and my equilibrium quantity will be marked as QE. This is also called the market clearing price or the market clearing quantity. That means, in other words, is that the producer and the producer and the consumers are agreeing to buy something at that price and that much, or at that quantity, at that unit. All right. Now, sometimes the price may go up or the price may go down, leading to an excess, surplus, or a shortage of something. Let's first talk about surplus. If my price is going up from the market clearing price to P1, notice how first, once I extend my price axis, it's hitting the demand curve first, yeah? That's going to be right here. Again, if price is going up, then quantity demand will go down. And then if I extend my price over here to supply, there's going to be more of a supply. So the producers are willing to make more and therefore leading to a surplus or an excess of something. Through price correction and through quantity correction, it'll come back down to equilibrium. Now, if there's a shortage of something, that happens if the price goes down. Now, if the price goes down, people will want more of something. Yeah, that's the demand, that's the law of demand. And if the price goes down, the producers are going to make less of something. So the quantity demanded exceeds the quantity supplied, leading to a shortage. And this also gets fixed through adjustments in price and quantity. Hope that made sense to you. And if you have any questions, clear them out, ask us the questions and we are there to answer. See you guys next week. Peace out.